Before we crack open tonight's cursed can of content, I just want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers, and an extra Sinister shout out to the loyal members of the Sinister Elite. You legends help keep the darkness alive. If you're enjoying the stories and want to take it a step further, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and consider joining the Sinister Elite by clicking that join button below. Members get access to creepy custom emojis and exclusive Sinister Elite badges that level up the longer you survive with us. It's like loyalty, but spookier. All right, lights off, headphones in, and let's summon something we'll all regret. I'm not proud of the number of jobs I've been fired from. There was the grocery store gig. I accidentally priced all the ground beef at 42 cents. The overnight security job. They said sleeping inside the dog kennel was unprofessional. And that one time I tried being a barista and melted a coffee grinder. So when I got offered the night shift at Tinkle's toy chest, I didn't ask too many questions. Midnight to 6. Just keep the lights on, cash out any customers, and for the love of God, don't open the register unless someone specifically asks, said the manager. A guy who looked like a taxidermied ventriloquist dummy with anxiety. He handed me a single brass key and a laminated name tag that just said Buddy. I don't know if that was my official name now or if they just didn't want to learn mine. I arrived at 11:59 p.m. The toy store was tucked between an abandoned tanning salon and a vape shop that only ever seemed to be open during thunderstorms. The sign above the store flickered between Tinkle's toy chest and Inkle's oi chest. Not exactly inviting. The windows were plastered with faded posters of toys I hadn't seen since the 90s. Creepy-eyed dolls, knockoff Power Rangers, and a display for something called Baby Barf and Burp Buddies. Inside, the store was dimly lit by buzzing fluorescents. The aisles stretched out like a maze of forgotten childhood nightmares. And somewhere near the back, a music box was playing itself, slowly and very off-key. The air smelled like old rubber, dust, and just a hint of something metallic. The cash register sat alone on a cracked laminate counter like it was sulking. I figured I'd at least poke around the place before my shift really started. The store was weirdly quiet for being filled with toys. Too quiet, like everything was holding its breath. I passed an aisle of plush animals, except they weren't soft. One teddy bear felt like sandpaper. Another one blinked at me. Yep, definitely normal. I made my way to the register and leaned on the counter. There was an old wall clock stuck at 3:13 a.m. I tapped it, but the hands didn't move. Then I noticed something strange. The register had no numbers on it, no buttons, just a drawer and a small tag taped to the side that read, "Do not open unless asked." I snorted. Sure, that's not ominous at all. I mean, I wasn't going to open it. I had standards. Okay, some standards. But by 1:47 a.m., after seeing 0 customers and hearing what I swear was a rubber duck squeaking from somewhere behind the shelves, boredom got the best of me. I tapped the drawer. Nothing. I tapped harder. Still nothing. Then I muttered, "Open sesame," because sometimes I'm an idiot. The drawer clicked open. Inside was not money. It was a folded piece of yellowed paper, labeled "Rules for the Register Clerk." Read carefully. Underneath that was a little rubber eyeball that stared straight up at me and rolled slightly when I exhaled. The list had 10 rules, written in blocky, jittery handwriting like someone had scribbled it while being electrocuted. If a customer asks to open the register, comply. Do not open the register on your own. Oops. If a child with no shadow asks for the missing puzzle piece, do not speak. Just point to aisle 6 and walk away. If you hear giggling in the vents, it's too late to hide. Stay still and close your eyes until it stops. The Furby on the wall watches you. Let it. Do not sweep between 2:59 and 3:14 a.m. If the mop is already in use, do not interrupt. The janitor doesn't clock in. He just shows up. If anyone pays in buttons, accept it. Do not ask what they're sewn from. At exactly 4 a.m., play the xylophone by the front window. At the end of your shift, close the drawer. Don't look inside again. Just close it. Trust us. I laughed nervously. Okay, ha ha, real funny. The Furby blinked. I swear on my last cup of gas station coffee, that damn Furby blinked. Right then, the bell above the door jingled. A man in a long black trench coat stepped in, eyes hidden behind mirrored sunglasses. At night. He walked stiffly to the counter and said in a monotone voice, "I need to make a purchase." He held up a small ancient yo-yo. "That'll be, I paused, realizing I had no idea how much anything cost. "Please, open the register," he said. My stomach dropped. A cold sweat broke out on the back of my neck. I nodded and reached for the drawer. It opened on its own this time. Inside, the eyeball was gone, and in its place was a single note, freshly written. "You've broken one rule. Keep going, and you'll meet the manager." The trench coat guy didn't blink, not when I opened the register, not when I stared inside and found the eyeball missing, not even when I muttered, "You know what? Let's just call it $1.50. He nodded, dropped 2 buttons on the counter, one brass, one made of something that looked suspiciously like bone, and said, "Keep the change." I forced a smile and bagged the yo-yo, which hissed quietly when I touched it. He turned and walked out without another word, leaving the door swinging and the scent of mothballs and burnt plastic hanging in the air. That's when I realized the drawer hadn't closed. It just sat there, open, like it was waiting for something else to crawl in or crawl out. I nudged it shut with the end of a Nerf bat and pretended I wasn't internally screaming. To distract myself, I decided to patrol the store. You know, do the thing night shift workers do where you walk around looking busy while praying nothing actually needs your attention. The toy aisles were a fever dream. Aisle 1 had stacks of board games, all knockoffs. The game of Afterlife, Uno Morte, and something called Don't Wake Granny, She Bites. Aisle 3 had a single rusted jack-in-the-box already half-wound. It was vibrating slightly. The tag on it read, "Do not laugh back." I backed away slowly. Aisle 6 had dolls. Not the cute kind. The Victorian kind. The ones that look like they've witnessed at least 6 unsolved murders. One of them turned her head as I passed and whispered, "He's watching you." "Who is?" I asked before I could stop myself. She didn't answer. Her eyes just shifted to something behind me. I turned around fast. Nothing. But when I looked back, the doll was gone. Nope. 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 I made my way to the back break room, which looked like it hadn't been used since the Clinton administration. There was a microwave with something fossilized inside, a single chair, and a crusty TV VCR combo on a metal cart. The only decoration was a paper sign taped to the wall that read, "You aren't supposed to be back here." I backed out of the room so fast I tripped over a stuffed giraffe. Then the music box started playing again. That same off-key melody, like a haunted version of Pop Goes the Weasel being played underwater. It was coming from ISIL 7. Of course it was. I followed the sound. A chill ran down my spine as I turned the corner and saw it. A little red music box sitting on a shelf by itself, turning slowly. Then the lights flickered. Once. Twice. And when they came back on, there was a little girl standing at the end of the aisle. She had no shadow. She held a half-finished jigsaw puzzle under one arm, and her eyes were pure white. Not glowing, not blind, just empty. "Do you have the missing piece?" she asked. Rule number 3 hit me like a shot of expired 5-hour energy. If a child with no shadow asks for the missing puzzle piece, do not speak. Just point to aisle 6 and walk away. I said nothing, just pointed stiffly toward aisle 6. The girl stared at me, blinked once. Then she smiled, way too wide for her face, and skipped away, humming the same song the music box had been playing. I waited until I couldn't hear her anymore before I let myself breathe. And that's when I saw it. A mop, standing in the middle of the main aisle, alone, upright, slightly damp. It was mopping the floor by itself, handle turning, water sloshing. It passed right by a display of haunted Beanie Babies without knocking a single one over. It paused, swiveled slightly in my direction, and then continued mopping toward the break room. I blinked hard. Okay, sure, that's totally normal. Rule number 7. If the mop is already in use, do not interrupt. The janitor doesn't clock in. He just shows up. I backed away, carefully, respectfully, like you do when you spot a rattlesnake in your grandmother's bathtub. I turned to head back to the counter, and that's when I saw a mannequin standing behind the register. Only we didn't have mannequins. This one was wearing the same Buddy name tag I had, and its head was slowly turning toward me. I froze. The mannequin raised its hand and pointed behind me. I turned and saw the doll from earlier, the one who'd whispered. She was standing in the middle of the aisle. In her tiny porcelain hand was a puzzle piece. The lights cut out, and somewhere in the dark something giggled from the vents. The moment the lights went out, the giggling in the vents started. Not cute kid giggling. Not even unsettling horror movie kid giggling. This sounded like someone gargling helium while being strangled with tinsel. I stood frozen, staring into the black, listening. Giggle, giggle, giggle. Clink. Something dropped out of the ceiling vent and landed with a soft, wet splat. I didn't want to know what it was, but unfortunately my phone flashlight decided it did want to know, and I saw it. A clown nose. Still, breathing. It puffed in and out like a tiny red lung. Nope, I whispered. I don't get paid enough for this. Actually, I don't even know if I'm getting paid. Then came the scraping. Something metal sliding against linoleum. Slow, uneven, getting closer. I flicked my flashlight in that direction just in time to catch a glimpse of a wind-up robot, about the size of a toddler, dragging a pair of toy handcuffs behind it. One of its eyes was cracked and leaking glitter. Its chest read, Tinkle's security bot number 1, hug mode, off. I bolted, ran down the action figure aisle, turned hard into the clearance section, nearly knocked over a bin of discounted cursed yo-yos, and ducked behind a shelf of discontinued Barbie rip-offs. I peeked through a gap in the shelf. The robot rolled by slowly, scanning the area. Violation detected, it chirped in a cheerful robotic voice. Unauthorized drawer activity. Locate and hug with extreme force. It stopped, turned its head toward my hiding spot. Its eyes sparked. Suddenly, crash. A doll fell off the shelf behind it. The robot spun toward the noise, gave a mechanical hiccup, and wandered off chasing it like a Roomba with a grudge. I stayed crouched for another full minute, breathing like I just sprinted a mile. My knees were screaming. My heart was doing jazzercise in my chest. I tried to whisper, okay, you're fine. You're alive. Just don't break any more rules. Ping. The overhead speakers crackled to life. A warped, cheerful jingle played. Something like if you fed a Chuck E. Cheese commercial through a wood chipper. Then a new voice came over the system. Male. Too smooth. Attention employees. Someone has opened the drawer without permission. You've made the manager very curious. A pause. If you wish to remain employed, return to the front counter immediately and prepare for a surprise customer. Then silence. I swallowed hard and crept out from behind the shelf. The lights were flickering like a rave for ghosts, and the Furby on the wall was spinning in slow, jerky circles. Back at the register, the mannequin was gone, but the cash drawer was open again, and inside was a wrapped gift box. Red paper, gold bow, no name. There was also a new note. This is for the next customer. Do not peek inside. Do not open it, no matter what they say. Right as I finished reading, the bell above the door chimed. This time it wasn't a trench coat guy or a girl with no shadow. It was a tall, waxy-looking man with no visible nose and eyes like static. He walked with a limp and smelled like melted crayons. Good evening, he said with a brittle smile. I've come to retrieve my package. I blinked at him. You mean this? I motioned toward the box, doing my best not to touch it. "Yes," he said, dragging out the word like it was made of slime. "But first, would you mind opening it for me?" Rule clear as day in my head. Do not open it, no matter what they say. I shook my head. "Sorry. I was told not to." His smile twitched. "I insist." I took a slow step back, and I politely decline. He stared at me, unblinking. The lights dimmed further until we were standing in a twilight of buzzing, fluorescent death. He leaned forward and whispered, "You've already broken one rule. What's another?" Just then, squeak. A sound. From behind the counter. The mop. It glided across the floor silently like a phantom janitor was scrubbing away tension itself. It paused behind the box. Just stood there, dripping gently. The waxy man glanced down at it. His face twitched. "Oh," he said, his tone suddenly fearful. "Is he here?" The mop turned. Its wooden handle seemed to tilt ever so slightly toward the man. And just like that, he turned around and left. Didn't speak, didn't blink, just walked out the door. I stared at the mop. It finished one last wipe of the floor, then leaned itself gently against the wall. I whispered, "Thank you." A drop of mop water hit the floor in reply. A moment later, the intercom crackled again. "Employee has complied. For now." The lights came back to normal. The Furby stopped spinning. The static man didn't return. And in the drawer, the gift box was gone. In its place was a brand new rule scribbled in red ink. Rule 11. If the gift box disappears, congratulations. You're in too deep. Do not attempt to quit. We already used your resume. I didn't even remember submitting a resume. The note in the register said they already used mine. What the hell did that even mean? Used it for what? Identity theft? Blood magic? A mailing list? I slammed the drawer shut, took 3 steps back and whispered to myself, "You just need to survive it till sunrise, that's it. Just 6 dumb hours and a demon Build-A-Bear." It was almost 4 a.m. I only knew that because the cursed wall clock, the one that had been frozen at 3:13 since I started, ticked forward, slowly. 1 minute, then another. I remembered rule number 9. At exactly 4 a.m., play the xylophone by the front window. I didn't know why. I didn't want to know why. But I was definitely going to do it. I sprinted to the front of the store, tripping over a half-deflated bouncy ball that screamed, "Do it again!" when I kicked it. There it was. A sad little toy xylophone sitting on a dusty stool by the window. It had only 5 keys. One was broken. Another had a face painted on it. I grabbed the rubber mallet next to it and took a deep breath. 4 a.m. exactly. Ding. Ding. Dong. Clang. Ding. That was the tune. I don't know what song it was. Sounded like the melody from a funeral march at Chuck E. Cheese. But when I finished, everything in the store went dead silent. Even the Furby. And then, the store's front window fogged up from the outside. Like something or someone. I was breathing on it. A shape slowly formed in the fog. A handprint, then another. They were too high up to be from a child. Too long. Too spindly. Then a smile appeared in the condensation, drawn from the outside. A long, dragging finger line, way too wide, curling up at the ends like a cartoon gone wrong. That's when I noticed. The neon open sign flipped to Welcome Manager. Nope, 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 no, ope. I backed up, fast. And that's when the phone rang. Not my cell. The ancient rotary phone next to the register. The one I hadn't even noticed until now. It was shaped like a toy hamburger and looked like it hadn't rung since Reagan was in office. I didn't want to answer it, but it kept ringing. Ring, ring. I picked it up slowly. "Hello?" A voice, smooth and oily, replied, "I just wanted to say how proud I am of you, buddy. You're making such Delightful progress. I didn't respond. Opening the drawer, defying rules, surviving him. The voice chuckled. We like that kind of initiative. Very promotable. Who is this? I asked, my voice cracking like a cursed Etch-a-Sketch. Why, I'm the manager. Of course. I swallowed hard. I don't want a promotion. The voice laughed softly, like silk over a saw blade. Oh, buddy. Promotions here aren't optional. The line went dead. Suddenly, the intercom clicked back on. All employees to aisle 13. All employees to aisle 13. I froze. We didn't have an aisle 13. I walked to the end of the store anyway, passing every numbered aisle. 11, 12, and then... there it was. Aisle 13. A black curtain had appeared where a blank wall used to be. Above it, a glowing red sign read, Staff Only. From behind the curtain, I could hear voices. Not human voices. Not exactly. More like echoing laughter and the plunk, plunk, plunk of toy piano keys being smashed by invisible hands. I pulled the curtain back slowly. It wasn't an aisle. It was a hallway. Diamond soys twisting. Way longer than the building should have allowed. I stepped through before I could talk myself out of it. The carpet changed. No longer colorful tile. Now it was that weird, overly soft playroom foam that squeaks under your shoes. The walls were lined with employee headshots. Dozens of them. Each labeled BUDDY. Each with a different person's face. Some smiling, some crying, some scratched out. A few still moved. One was waving at me. Another was pounding on the glass from the inside. At the end of the hall stood a black desk. Behind it was a mannequin in a pinstripe suit. Same buddy name tag. No face. Just a red balloon where the head should be. It pointed to a clipboard. I walked up and read it. Congratulations, employee. Your promotion is now in effect. New role. Toy specialist. Responsibilities include aisle monitoring, box wrapping midnight greeter duties, soul counting gift intake, register compliance. Non-compliance will result in unmaking. Beneath that in bold red letters, do not wake the manager. The mannequin dropped the clipboard. Then the floor shifted. Suddenly I was back behind the register. The xylophone was gone. The mop was now leaning in the exact same spot as before, as if nothing happened. A new note was taped to the register. Rule number 12. If you make it this far, you're part of the display. Try to smile when the manager checks in. He hates frowners. I stared at my reflection in the register's glass. For a split second, it wasn't my face. It was his. The mannequin. Smiling. I stared at the register's reflection for a long time. It was gone now, the mannequin version of me. But I know what I saw. That waxy grin. Those hollow, glassy eyes. It was like seeing my own soul in an outlet mall Halloween mask. And the smile never moved. But I swear it was smiling at me. I turned around to make sure the mop was still where I left it. Yep. Propped up in the same spot near the wall. Damp. Still. Unbothered by any of this. You and me both, buddy. I muttered. I looked at the cash register again. Closed now. Nothing taped to it. The notes were gone. Even the list of rules had vanished. I tapped it. Nothing happened. But behind me, something whispered. It came from the speaker system, but real low, like it wasn't meant for me to hear. He's almost here. Smile wider. We're not toys. We're inventory. The lights flickered. One of the overhead bulbs popped, raining down sizzling sparks that smelled like burnt birthday cake. The Furby on the wall growled. I didn't even know they could growl. I checked the wall clock. 4:37 a.m. The manager's window smile still glistened faintly on the glass, but the fog was starting to clear. That's when I noticed movement at the very back of the store. The dolls were rearranging themselves. The Victorian ones. The old-school, haunted ones. The ones with handmade bonnets and cracked porcelain cheeks. They weren't walking or anything. They just weren't where I left them. They now stood in a perfect circle around something. Something new. It looked like an oversized toy chest. 6 feet long, banded in rusted iron, painted in red and yellow stripes. A big cartoon-style padlock hung from the latch. Across the front, in faded carnival font, it read, "Do not open. Ever. Seriously." I stepped toward it because clearly my survival instincts had taken the night off. And then the store lights cut out completely. I was trapped in pitch black. Something laughed from inside the chest. I froze. The Furby whispered something in a language I'm pretty sure didn't exist until 5 minutes ago. And then, music. Low. Scratchy. "If you're happy and you know it," a children's voice choir sang it, offbeat, out of sync. "Clap your hands." I turned to run, but every toy on the shelves turned toward me. Not figuratively. Literally. Heads swiveled. Plastic joints creaked. 1,000 tiny glass and plastic eyes followed me as I bolted toward the break room. But the hallway had changed again. The door was gone. Now, in its place, was a mirror. A big one. Floor to ceiling. And in the mirror was me, holding a clipboard, wearing the pinstripe suit, a red balloon floating where my head should have been. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I looked down. I was still in my hoodie and jeans. But in the reflection, I reached out, smiling, offering the clipboard to me. Then the clipboard dropped out of the mirror and hit the floor at my feet. It dropped. From the mirror. I backed away, stepping on a wind-up dinosaur that roared so loud it echoed down the aisles. Something giggled back. I looked down at the clipboard. A new rule had been written on it, hastily scribbled in red marker. Rule number 13, the toy chest opens at 5 a.m. You have 23 minutes. Leave, hide, or be part of the show. I bolted back toward the front of the store, tried the doors, locked. Every window was now bricked over, as in literal bricks, where glass used to be. The store was shifting, twisting. The aisles moved behind me, reshaping like a giant etch-a-sketch being shaken by Satan himself. I tripped again, this time over a small tricycle that hadn't been there seconds ago. When I got up, I noticed something I hadn't before. A small, crudely drawn sign taped to the mop. "Employees only. Do not follow the mop." I glanced up. The mop had started moving, gliding slowly down one of the aisles. I know what you're thinking. Follow it. Break the rules. Cheat the system. But for the first time all night, I listened. I stayed put. Instead, I crouched behind the counter, heart pounding, trying to think. The store's ceiling began to rumble. A slow chant filled the air, toy voices singing something like a nursery rhyme. "Tick-tock, tick-tock, win the spring and turn the lock. He will rise when time runs out. Smile wide, and don't you shout." A stuffed giraffe flopped over next to me, glassy eyes glowing red. The register drawer popped open. Inside was a wind-up key, old and bronze, the kind you'd find on the back of a vintage tin toy robot. Beneath it, a handwritten note. "You still have a choice. Wind it and join him, or find the key and run. Clock's ticking, buddy." I reached for it, but something behind me clicked. The toy chest. The padlock was undone. The toy chest's lid creaked open just a crack, just wide enough to let out a sliver of something. Something wrong. It wasn't smoke. It wasn't fog. It was more like shadow mist. Black air that slithered across the floor like it had weight. It curled around the base of the shelves, winding through the action figure aisle and over the doll section. Everything it touched twitched. Toys started moving on their own, not walking, shuddering, jittering like something was puppeteering them too fast, like stop-motion film gone berserk. Some of them whispered to each other. Some of them whispered my name. The lights flickered violently, then died altogether. The only illumination came from flickering displays. A light board flashing random shapes, a lava lamp leaking orange ooze, and the evil glow of the Furby's eyes. And then came the laughter. From the chest, soft at first, childlike, then warped, a multi-layered echoing cackle that sounded like it came from a dozen mouths trying to speak through a kazoo made of bone. I took one step back, and the entire store groaned like it was alive. The mop was gone. I repeat, the mop was gone. That was when I panicked. I turned, ran, and smack. I hit a wall of stuffed animals, towering bears, oversized pandas, creepy sock monkeys with 3 arms. They blocked the aisle. I pivoted. Another aisle. More stuffed animals. But these had eyes that were open too wide. Some of them had extra mouths stitched in. One had a zipper across its face. It was unzipping itself. I backed away, fast, but the toys were hurting me. Toward the chest. The voice from the intercom crackled again. This time, his voice. "Clock's ticking, buddy. Don't fight the promotion." Then, clang. The chest flung open fully. A hand reached out. At least I think it was a hand. Too many joints. Fingers too long. Skin like melted birthday candles. It groped along the floor like it was searching for something. It touched a Beanie Baby. The toy screamed and turned to ash. I turned to run, but a figure blocked my way. A man. No, a mannequin. Same pinstripe suit. Same buddy name tag. His head was now an old CRT television. It flicked on, showing static. Then my face. Then a different version of me. One that was smiling way too wide. I tried to push past it, but its arms were plastic strong. They wrapped around me like a straitjacket. The TV head flickered again, this time showing the toy chest. Something was crawling out. I kicked, I yelled, I twisted free, barely, and ran back toward the front of the store, lungs burning. The wind-up key was still sitting in the open drawer, and next to it, a new item, a real key, rusted, old, covered in glittery residue. It was taped to a note that read, "This is your only shot. Use it on the locked door. Get out. Do not look behind you." I didn't hesitate. I grabbed it and ran for the emergency exit. Yes, it had been bricked over earlier. But now, there was a single door glowing faintly with a red exit sign, like it had always been there, but I just hadn't noticed. I shoved the key in. Click. The door creaked open. Behind me, I heard the chest screech, a sound like every kid's toy being destroyed at once. The laughter turned into snarls. The lights strobed. I didn't look back. Rule number whatever, don't look back. I ran through the doorway and fell, hard, onto linoleum, bright lights above me, Muzak playing softly. I was in a Target, clean, organized, stocked with sensible toys and non-cursed Legos, and standing next to me, holding a mop, was a janitor, a real one, old guy, tuft of gray hair, big round glasses, calm as hell. He looked down at me and said, "You make it out of Tinkle's, kid?" I blinked at him. "You know about that place?" He nodded. "Been mopping around these parts for decades. That store's been opening and closing all over the country since the 70s, like a haunted pop-up ad." I sat up, trembling. What was in the chest? The janitor paused, then said, "Nothing at first. But every time someone breaks a rule, it gets a little fuller." He looked me over. "You broke more than one, didn't you?" I didn't answer. He nodded anyway. "Yeah? Thought so." Then he pushed the mop forward and began cleaning a patch of floor that didn't look dirty. I stood. "Am I out? For real?" The janitor shrugged. "For now." He pointed to the toy aisle behind me. On the very end cap was a dusty, half-open box labeled Buddy's Promotion Kit. Inside, a red balloon, a pinstripe tie, a wind-up key, and a single mop leaning behind it. I stared at the end cap display in the toy aisle. Buddy's Promotion Kit. The box was dusty, the plastic cracked like it had been sitting there for years. Inside, that red balloon twitched slightly, as if reacting to my breath. The pinstripe tie looked exactly like the one the mannequins wore. The wind-up key was identical to the one I'd found in the drawer. And behind it all, leaning perfectly upright between two Paw Patrol plushies, the mop, still wet, still dripping, still watching. I slowly backed away. "This can't be real," I muttered. I got out. I ran. The door opened. I escaped. The janitor from earlier, the real one, not the phantom from the toy store, pushed his mop closer to me, eyes tired and ancient. "You left the building," he said, "but not the story." I blinked. "What does that even mean?" He pointed his mop at my chest. I looked down. My shirt had changed. No longer my hoodie. Now it was a crisp, buttoned-up white shirt, tucked in, wrinkled slightly, and clipped to it was a familiar laminated badge. Buddy. I tore it off and threw it. "Nope, I quit. I'm not doing this." The janitor sighed. "Can't quit a dream, kid. Especially not someone else's." Behind me, the intercom pinged. "Here. In the target." A distorted voice crackled over the speaker system. "Buddy to customer service. You've been promoted again. Time to stock the chest." The lights in the aisle flickered once. Twice. Then stayed on, but dimmer. I ran toward the front doors. They slid open. Outside was daylight. Real, beautiful, hot coffee and bagel daylight. I burst out into the parking lot like I'd been underwater for 7 hours. But something was off. There were no cars, no people, no sound, not even birds. I turned around. The store wasn't Target anymore. It was Tinkle's toy chest again. Back in its original strip mall, wedged between the cursed vape shop and the abandoned tanning salon, the flickering neon sign buzzed weakly. T. N. Kiel's 2 chest. The door behind me clicked, locked. The sidewalk beneath my feet cracked like old linoleum tiles, and I realized I never left. The toy store didn't trap you. It just promoted you. Back inside, the chest was sealed again, locked tight. The mop had returned to its usual post by the wall, perfectly still. The register sat calmly, drawer closed. But there was a new note taped to the counter. Handwritten. Same shaky red marker style as always. "Congratulations on reaching management level. Duties include onboarding new hires, tracking rule violations, feeding the chest register curation, mop protection. Please wear your tie. Please do not speak to yourself in the mirrors. Please smile. It's required now." I looked up. There was a mirror behind the counter. I don't know when it got there, but the version of me in the reflection was already smiling. Not forced, not scared, just content. I looked down and saw the wind-up key sitting on the counter again, but this time it wasn't loose. It was already slotted into my back. I didn't even feel it anymore. 2 weeks later. The toy store is still open from midnight to 6 a.m. A new guy started last night. He's jumpy, nervous. I remember that feeling. I handed him his badge. "Just one rule," I said, smiling. "Don't open the drawer unless a customer asks." He nodded. I walked away. The mop rolled past us slowly, dragging its wet trail like a signature. He asked, "Who runs this place anyway?" I didn't turn around when I answered, "Management." The drawer clicked open behind me, and the chest laughed.